Hi, and welcome to the show. Subscribe at kevinmd.com/podcast. Today, we welcome Sujay Jadhav. He's a healthcare executive. Today's Kevin MD article is How AI is Revolutionizing Healthcare Through Real-World Data. Sujay, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kevin. Excited to be here.
All right, so let's start by briefly sharing your story and then talk about the Kevin MD article that you shared with us today.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So in terms of sort of my background or role, I'm actually born to a family of physicians. Sort of my father was a physician, a psychiatrist, and growing up surrounded by physicians, given that most of my family members were in the industry, and I supported him on weekends from an administration perspective. So great insights into the care elements, but also the somewhat burdensome administration elements of running a practice, overall. I was actually the rebel. I decided to do engineering, but as things go in life, actually, straight after business school, joined a digital health company and have been in the industry for almost 30 years now. Being very fortunate that I've been part of three sort of successful companies. And with each particular company, I've managed to get closer and closer to actually impacting patient care. And the first company was a company called Model N. We help deal with pricing for life sciences biotech companies. Second company, Gobalto, help focus on automating the early part of the clinical trial process and helping optimize so that you can spend more time actually recruiting patients and quality patients into clinical trials. And now at Verana, in a lot of ways, can leverage all this expertise both on the commercial side, on the clinical trial side, with a key focus on quality of care and a focus on real-world data.
All right. I'm always interested in hearing a variety of perspectives when it comes to that AI healthcare intersection. So many avenues that we can explore. Your Kevin MD article is How AI is Revolutionizing Healthcare Through Real World Data. For those that didn't get a chance to read your article, tell us what it's about.
Sure. So, yeah, looking at sort of, now AI currently right now, and, there's sort of commentary around that, how it is the latest buzzword. I'll say inherent in that comment is a little bit of a shallowness with regards to how AI is leveraged currently right now. But the overarching purpose of the article is talk through how AI is here today. It is transforming things all the way from the healthcare to life sciences continuum, and cite a number of examples how we are leveraging AI to actually making a meaningful impact across that particular continuum. The focus is on real world data and particularly unstructured data, where we feel we can uncover a lot of insights to help improve quality of care, to help improve research, as well, overall. In terms of sort of quality of care, we at Verana, what we do is we help provide this mixed service in partnership with societies in the specialty areas that we focus on, such as ophthalmology and urology. And in essence, this particular MIP service we provide is to help support specialists in terms of submitting quality of care metrics to CMS, so that allows them to actually have bonuses and also avoid penalties with regards to the Medicare rebating system there. Now, historically, the way these calculations were done were actually on structured data, and that has a limitation in terms of understanding truly overall quality of care. And so in the last couple of years, what we have done is expanded it to unstructured data, where we are leveraging NLP machine learning techniques on physician notes, as an example, to uncover quality of care sort of dynamics that are occurring and allow the physician to actually submit that to CMS to help maximize the bonuses that they can get there. Another area where we are leveraging sort of unstructured data and machine learning techniques is helping identify particularly and diagnose patients with specific diseases out there. And what we are finding in, for example, areas such as, urology there, by leveraging these particular techniques, we're yielding sort of cohorts of patients 5x versus normal sort of structured data analysis. Secondly, in ophthalmology, looking at imaging data and identifying patients with geographic atrophy earlier on and yielding very large cohort sizes, which ultimately lead to helping address, those particular patients with that particular disease, slow the disease progression there and improve overall quality of care.
So when it comes to unstructured data, you specifically mentioned ophthalmology. So what will be some examples of unstructured data that you would typically find in the chart?
Yeah. So, when we look at unstructured data, so there's two elements in unstructured data. And one, is on the imaging side of the house. And so, looking at, at the eye, et cetera, and understanding sort of certain disease progressions there as well. And so we've built machine learning models there, which actually ingest the particular images and can look at diagnosing particular conditions, such as I mentioned, such as geographic atrophy.
Mm-hmm.
These models we've developed, need to be trained over multiple years to hit, sort of that quality factor, which is important to leverage it for regulatory purposes and care purposes, as well. But that's an example of one which we've been using for a number of years to help diagnose. Another one is sort of in the glaucoma area there, looking in the physician notes at intraocular pressure. IOP mentions there, understanding reductions, increases in that, and also building machine learning models which look at that, not just the keywords, but also the context around that, to ensure and make sure that when we suggest that this particular patient has a degradation in, for example, visual acuity related to a particular disease, suggesting it with a high degree of accuracy. So there are a couple of examples how we are leveraging sort of unstructured data to help surface up patients with particular conditions.
Now, before AI and natural language tools, how would physicians be able to mine the chart and get some of these measures over to CMS? How was it done before this technology?
Yeah, good question. So, I would say core to the way that they would do it is that obviously, look at, the images themselves and look at a lot of the reports, the diagnostic reports that we'd have there. And then they would have to categorize it in terms of ICD-10, ICD-9 codes there. And that would be the core of what they would leverage, from a coding perspective to then do these particular calculations to then submit it to CMS. So as you can imagine, the variety of sources that you get to get this type of information, leaving it to the human eye sometimes has a different level of variability.
Mm-hmm.
Leaving it to different set of folks which are involved in the overall healthcare continuum also provides extra variability there. And hence, when you look at the quality of what was being submitted, it needed to have a lot of validation there.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of effort went into that, and hence it was very, very cumbersome to submit this to CMS. We, looking to, automate most of that particular process there. But as I said, this is more of a support that we are providing to our specialists around this. At the end of the day, we're not looking to replace the way they diagnose, the way they look at care of these particular patients there. What we are doing is we're surfacing up, hey, these particular set of patients having improved quality here, you should, actually leverage them for your submission to CMS to generate a particular bonus. So it's more of a support function that we're providing to the specialists that we support.
And can you share some case studies or data in terms of the financial impact that your tool can give in terms of mining the chart for this unstructured data so you could send it off to CMS? What kind of examples of financial benefit could there be for the practice?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what we are seeing is a couple of things. We're seeing north of sort of 30% in terms of efficiency savings, in terms of actually documenting these particular and calculating these quality measures in the way that we're doing it, and we're automating it there. Mm-hmm. And so that's just in the submission process there. But when you're looking at, in terms of the bonuses that they can generate and avoiding penalties, can be 6-7%. Overall. And when you're looking at practices which are doing hundreds of thousands of dollars there, that's a substantial amount, even sometimes millions of dollars. So we're seeing in the tens of thousands of dollars, if not $100,000 of impact related to submitting quality measures to help improve the way that they should generate these particular bonuses.
Now, in your article, you also talk about your experience with that intersection between AI and clinical trials and drug development. Tell us about how AI is helping us there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as I talked through a little bit around, some of the cases where we are mining the physician notes, the images we have there to help do early diagnosis of some of these critical diseases that we have. But we also leveraging those diagnoses and cohorts of patients for inputs into clinical trials. And so, an example in prostate cancer, as I mentioned, generating cohorts 5x what you would normally get via a structured data analysis. Those particular patients are in the urologist setting. And so helping surface them up for urology trials is extremely impactful there. So the early onset of that particular disease, which is a key disease which impacts, a number of people, in the world, there overall, helping provide that group of patients to pharmaceutical companies there so they can enroll them in particular trials, and then leveraging that data so that they can help optimize their inclusion exclusion criteria to ensure and make sure that, when they actually conduct the trial, that they can actually recruit the adequate patients and help improve the overall cost and timeliness, around that as well. So as you can see, sort of the early diagnosis that we're doing in these critical disease areas, yielding high patient populations, is being an input into clinical trials and optimize that overall process there as well. One other thing I would add is the beauty of the amount of data that we have currently right now in AI. We're actually making a good dent in other areas such as rare diseases, which historically have not had high patient population. And also looking at segments of population which typically have not got a large amount of investment, such as pediatrics, as well. And so with the wealth of data that we have, both structured and unstructured data currently right now, we can leverage all that particular data with AI techniques to help support trials in those particular areas currently right now, where historically it was very, very difficult given the patient populations were very, very small.
Now, are there any potential risks or pitfalls researchers and clinicians should be aware of when applying AI to real-world health data?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, first of all, in terms of the way that we look at sort of our modeling, we're very, very careful around the particular models in terms of the way we design the models. They have specialists, clinician specialists, which help design those particular modules. As we go through every particular iteration of that with sample data, they validate that. And then ultimately, when we release the cohort of patients, de-identified for example, biotech and pharmaceutical companies to leverage on that, there is a quality gate that we do there, which is actually clinician-led there as well. But I'd say, the most valuable insights often come from unstructured data. So the clinician notes, their observations, the reports are essential to generating real-world evidence. AI is a tool that just scales the clinician expertise, and it's definitely not a replacement. As I mentioned, clinician input is critical to building and validating these particular models. But accurate and thorough documentation doesn't just support care, but there's a lot of downstream elements and benefits to that. It fuels research, improves trial design, and helps shape overall the future of medicine. The beauty of natural language processing, machine learning, and AI is historically physicians were forced to, learn how to document things in more standardized fashion. I think there's no need to do that anymore. With these particular techniques, they can record their observations the way they see fit. But having said that, it needs to be accurate. And as long as that's particularly accurate, then I'm very, very optimistic in terms of how we can improve overall quality of care and research.
We're talking to Sujay Jadhav. He's a healthcare executive, and today's Kevin MD article is How AI is Revolutionizing Healthcare Through Real-World Data. Sujay, let's end with some take-home messages that you want to leave with the Kevin MD audience.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hopefully through this particular discussion, through my article, sort of, that AI is definitely here. It's adding a lot of value through the healthcare to life sciences continuum there. Set a number of examples where we are actually definitely doing that. AI's ability to unlock unstructured clinical data is already transforming how we understand disease, deliver care, and conduct research. Its success depends entirely on high quality, clinically validated data, made possible through close collaboration with clinicians who generate it. And I will say to the clinician audience out there, is there's definitely a first mover advantage to leveraging a lot of these AI techniques currently right now. I've, very, very optimistic given the number of solutions out there, whether it's EHR dependent, we have third parties out there which are AI focused, overall, that there's going to be a lot of opportunities for clinicians to leverage this to improve overall quality of care. But it is an iterative process. And the quicker and the earlier that clinicians leverage tools that they see as a good fit for them, it would better be for a long term, and they'll see a lot of benefits in terms of overall quality of care and the costs as well.
Sujay, thank you so much for sharing your perspective and insight. And thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you, Kevin.